Can I help you? You're trying to roll over me? I don't appreciate that, Colby. Hey, what's up, gardening friends? You give everybody a kiss? Oh, it's so nice. Jeff here. How's everybody doing? You're doing well. I'm great. Everybody's here. Everybody except for probably Pumpkin. No, she's here. She's got to be here. There she is. There's my Pumpkin. Hi, Pumpkin. You say hi? Saying hello to everybody? You're a good kitty. So sweet. Little kiss? No kiss on the toe thumb? Thank you, Pumpkin. All that. Don't have my mic on. That's fine. We get to it. I need to repot a Brugmansia. Figured we could talk about the Brugmansia. They're really fun plants. And one of the reasons I think they're fun is because they're easy. Got a little one right here, big one back here, and the big one, it's not as big as it looks. It's on a little plant stand here. Needs to be repotted. First things first, I need to repot the big one over here, not this little guy. Just brought him over here so we can have a look at it. I already mentioned that this needed to be repotted. You can see I have it sitting down here in this other container because I was like, oh, well, I'll bump it up into this pot, which you can see is really not that much of an upgrade for this plant. Not much of an upgrade at all. So instead, I'm going to put it in here, which I know might seem like too much, but well, it's not. It's going to be fine. So the Brugmansias, Angel's Trumpets, these things grow so incredibly fast that if I don't just bump it up into this larger container, by the end of this growing season, I'm gonna have to move it into this container. If I were to just take it up to this size right here, which would be about your typical size upgrade, pot-wise, within probably I'd say more like 12 weeks. End of the growing season, it's gonna need to go into a bigger container. And then if I don't do that, then in the fall and the winter, when this thing is inside, it's gonna be much more of a pain to take care of. So, I'm just going to go ahead and get this filled up with a standard all-purpose potting mix. A relatively good quality one. I mean, I'd like to think it's a high-quality one since I'm using it. But as long as it's organically rich, has some moisture retention, and also drains well, it'll be fine. It'll get the job done. These plants are not terribly picky about their soil. The main thing is that they don't sit in water and that they aren't let to dry out for too terribly long. Although, when these things are larger, more established plants, they can dry out some, but it's not their preference. They're going to grow their best in a nice, evenly moist environment. Okay, go ahead and grab this right here. I think that it's probably just about time to get this done. It has grown probably a good 1.5 feet since I got it, and I think that it probably would have grown even more than that had I repotted it sooner. I'm just gonna lightly loosen the root ball. I'm not going to do very much. The roots aren't swirled. I'd say this is perfect timing to come in here and get this done. So we generally say 1 to 2 inches on the outside diameter. This is probably more about, I don't know, maybe, what do you guys think? About 2.5? Wow, those palm fronds are really casting some shade over here, which is great for me, but not the best for the video. Nothing all that crazy going on here though. I'm back filling a container. I haven't added any slow release only because I am out of it, but these do like a consistent amount of feed, so it would be a good idea for me to come in here sometime in the next few weeks. I realize all these leaves are probably hitting my microphone. Yeah, sometime in the next few weeks and blend in an all-purpose continuous release fertilizer into the top of the soil. Osmocote would be fine. Nothing wrong with it. It does the trick. Sometimes I like to use something that has chelated iron in it because I do have issues with my Brugmansias. Not necessarily getting chlorotic, but they do yellow out. Not quite to the point of chlorosis. So, you know, part of that is a matter of these need to be in a larger container with a fresh potting mix. That makes a big difference as far as keeping their growth nice and green so that they, you know, they have nutrients available to them. Nitrogen being a very important one. That can be one of the reasons for the yellowing foliage. And also, the soil pH. Lost track of what I was saying there. So, if you have a higher pH, then the plant's going to have trouble taking in iron. This is a potting mix. Relatively neutral pH to this one, so that's not something you got to worry about with this blend right here. Yeah, like I said, I will get the continuous release added to this at some point. Right now, this plant is focused on getting its roots spread out into that new mix, so there isn't even much of a point in adding it yet. Oh, that's so much better. That needed to be done so badly. Was thinking about repotting this little guy. Is that just very extreme? What are you doing? Problem is, without it, I can't really film because the camera overheats so fast when we're pushing the triple digits here. That'll be okay. This one hasn't been that long since it was watered. That was what I was saying. Yeah, so Brugmansia's angel trumpets, excellent plants. They have really big, long, I should have explained all this in the beginning, very long trumpet-shaped flowers that hang down. Angel's trumpet, that's how they got that name. They come in a variety of colors. They have a wonderful fragrance, more so in the evening. This one right here is a pink, and this one down here is a double. It might be a triple. I think it's a double pink. So you can have a singular trumpet-shaped flower, you can have doubles, and there are triples. So there's a lot to choose from. White, yellow, orange, pink is typically what you see, and sometimes there are some variations within those where you might get slight hints of multiple colors in one flower. Zones 8 and up, probably 8B and up for full-on security with the plants. They can be surprisingly cold hardy. There are some varieties that I know Plant Delight's nursery sells that they have had luck with in their 7B gardens. So I would say give those a try if you're pushing the limits with the cold hardiness. Their root hardiness is very good. So if you do push the limit and you have bad winter and it dies, just wait, you might get some new growth that'll come up out of the ground for you. Where I live, 6B, 7A, have to keep them in containers, which is actually a very simple thing to do. They're really rewarding to keep in a container because they grow so prolifically. It's so much fun to have a plant where you put it into a fresh mix, and I just know that this is going to put on probably a good 2 feet of growth by the end of this growing season. This one right here was planted as a tiny, well, you can see it. This is the size of the cutting right here. Bring that over here to the light so you can see it better. That was the cutting. Just this little piece, and I planted that up in March or April, I can't remember. This is everything I've gotten out of it since, and that is a result of the plant getting knocked over for like 3 days, me not realizing it, and it did that. So the term for that was it geo photo something, I don't know. Do you guys like the pot? I love the pot. It was on clearance at Walmart, 15 bucks. Yeah, they move with the sun. So that's something to keep in mind. You want to keep your lighting very even with them, because you can maybe notice when you look at this plant right here, it is stretched and leaning this way because I had it over here. I couldn't put it into the sun. It had to stay in a more shaded location because its pot size was so small. I was having to water this 2, sometimes 3 times a day. They wilt down very quickly when they're thirsty, so it's easy to know when you need to give them water. When they're in a pot that's that small, you got to water them nonstop. So I had it tucked back into the shade until I was able to get around to repotting it. And, get some water, and then I'll move it to where it's going to get some more light, and that's going to spur some more flowers too. So the angel trumpets, they do like a good amount of sun, but they can go part sun, even to part shade, but in the part shade, they're going to be much more stretched out, and you're not going to have as many flowers on them. They look their best with a full morning sun, and then even into the mid-afternoon and shade throughout the rest of the day. That's when I always have the best luck with them. That can vary from climate to climate. If you live in a very arid climate, probably going to want less sun for them. The more humidity, the cooler your evenings and everything, then chances are the more light they'll be able to take. I have never done anything fancy with their fertilizing. I have always just used a standard all-purpose blend. I use the Jack's Classics Petunia feed a lot, which does have the iron in it, and maybe they appreciate that. I don't know. I just like the ratio that's in it, but it's essentially an all-purpose fertilizer. These aren't plants that are going to really ask that much of you other than give them water, make sure they get repotted every so often, fairly often actually, because these grow so quickly. That's probably the biggest thing with these, that if you want a really nice looking, nice sized plant, make sure you repot them frequently. Don't, some palm trees, this Areca palm over here, it's been in that container since 2014. I have pulled it, done small root prunes on it, and put fresh soil into the container probably 3 or 4 times. But still, the palm can hack it. This guy, they will be very high maintenance if you don't just keep bumping them up into larger and larger containers until they're about to the mature size you want to let them stay at, or just if you're letting them go full on. I should probably talk about that. So they're mature sizes. There are lots of different types of these Brugmansias, cultivars. So there are some that I believe stay more like 5.5, 7 foot, and then others that go about 10, 12 foot. Some that get really, really big. If you just let them do their thing, they'll have a really nice vase shape to them, which is really nice to have that vase shape with the flowers that hang off and they dangle. Oh, it's so nice. Very, very, very aesthetically pleasing plants. I'm not always crazy about the foliage, but that's just a personal preference thing that I didn't need to include in this video at all. It has a drier appearance to it, so that's neither, don't worry, forget I said that. That's nothing to do with anything. Better flowering, it's going to be in the sunlight. They like things warm too. So when I would move a Brugmansia out in the spring, I'm not expecting any flowers out of them until we're consistently having temperatures that are well over the mid 70s, including nighttime lows. So if we're still dropping into the 50s and lower 60s at nighttime, heck, even upper 60s, I'm not going to expect much flowering out of them, though I will get sporadic flowers out of a Brugmansia that time of year. They really amp it up the most when things are consistently warm across the board. These will be prone to root rot if you are doing what I said and keeping them consistently moist, but temperatures aren't warm enough. So the cooler your temperatures, the more you want to let them dry out in between waterings, right? If they're not pulling that water up, they tend to throw a fit if they're sitting with too much water around the roots for a long time when it's not warm. And that takes us more into just potted culture and indoor care with these. It is different. Outside, these are going to get watered every single day. It's summer, it's warm, they need a lot of water. Inside, whole different thing. I would say I would probably let these dry out about 50%, if not more, in between waterings. Depending on the kind of light they're getting. Ideally, they're going to want as much light as you can give them indoors. They just do better outside, is the thing. Indoors, these are going to be more prone to pests, scale and spider mite and mealybug, but scale and spider mite are usually the biggest issues I've ever had on these, but you know, spider mite, bugs love them. Something about them, it's a very tasty plant. Outdoors, it's a better airflow that helps keep all that stuff way inside. Those might be issues that you have to deal with. However, it is completely doable because at indoor temperatures, they're not very demanding. You're not going to get a ton of growth out of them. Well, not the same as you would outside. But like I said, they can go more onto the dry side without just wilting down and throwing a big fit like they do outside. You get more time between watering, so they're not that high of a maintenance plant indoors. Overwintering them, well, there are a few different options. The way I do it isn't necessarily the way a lot of other people overwinter their Brugmansia. So traditionally what a lot of people do during the winter time when you have to take your potted plant inside is they will go to the Brugmansia and, you know, they'll find a spot, generally at least a third of the way down on the plant, and just cut it all off, let it defoliate, and you can stick it someplace cool, dark, and dry, kind of like you would with a flower bulb. And you can do that for a couple of months, really, and they'll normally be fine with that. And then you bring them out, and once you see some green start to pop back out on the wood that's left on there, then you resume watering. Or you can also just take them on in, put them someplace that's more on that cool, dark, not necessarily pitch black, but cooler, low lit area, and keep them more on the dry side. They'll defoliate on their own. They don't have to defoliate, by the way, but they probably will if you're moving them from outside to inside. And you just water them when the plant is, you know, fairly well dry. Very similar to what you would do with a plumeria in the wintertime. That's kind of more what I do. I just watch the plant and go with the plant. If it's starting to droop and drop its leaves, then it's telling me, all right, it's time for me to rest. And then I go ahead and I let it take its rest, and I put it somewhere in my grow space in my garage that's not very brightly lit, and they'll start to bud out usually well before it's time to bring them outside. And when they've done that, I move them out to a spot with more light and start to up the watering very, very slowly. It sounds more complicated than it is, and you also can't just keep watering it. If it's getting a lot of light and it's not showing you any signs that it needs to defoliate, because like I said, they don't really have to defoliate, then you just keep doing whatever you're doing. That's what I was saying, you have options. But traditionally, a lot of people will prune them down because these get massive. These get really, really big. Remember, this was just a few inches tall just a couple months ago, and it's still in this small pot. I need to bump this one up now into a 10-inch container. And it was in something this big not long ago. This, like I said, this will be at least 4.5 to 5 feet tall within probably 2 months. One of the reasons that I like the method of doing the prune back, even though I rarely do it, of just giving them that heavy cut back, is because that's going to increase your branching for the next year. For all that new growth will come out, and you'll have more branches, more flowers, a nice, more full, luscious looking plant. And also, you start to thicken up the lower growth, and the more you thicken that up, the more drought tolerance there is in the plant, so that helps with just ease of care. And keep it away from curious mouths. This isn't one for ingesting human or animal. Not a good idea, so that's something to remember. I love a plant with versatility. So I've been able to tell you so far that if you're outside and it's nice and warm and the container, keep them consistently moist, give them plenty of light, and they'll be happy. Yet they're also adaptable enough that you can move them inside and let them dry out a fair amount in between waterings, and they'll typically be okay. Actually better than they would be if you were to be keeping them consistently moist. You gotta love that, right? You have options. I just love all the options. It's how you know you have some good plants. The biggest downside is biggest con I can see to growing the angel trumpets is just the pests when they're indoors. It's one of the reasons I like to go ahead and just cut them sometimes. Like I said, I almost never do it, but I know that I should give them that cut. It's a lot easier to just keep a few stems clear of the pest than to be getting in underneath all the foliage and everything, because the spider mites really do latch onto these things pretty fast. At least my spider mites do. My spider mites love the angel trumpets. And that's pretty much the gist of it. There's not a ton to say other than keep up with your repottings and give them plenty of light. And consistent fertilizing is good during the growing season. Will help you get more flowers and more growth, right? But if you use a nice organically rich fresh mix, you know, every single year on them, then you don't have to worry as much about the fertilizing because you got good stuff down there around the roots of the plants already. Okay, hey, thanks for hanging out. That's going to do it. Hope everybody's doing well. Comment down below. It's impossible to remember everything. What are some of your favorite types with the Brugmansias? Are you growing them? Where are you growing them in your gardens? What kind of light are you giving them? What are some of your overwintering methods? It's always helpful. Check out the comments whenever you watch one of these videos because people usually have a lot to offer and to add on to everything. All right, as always, and most importantly, everybody, keep on growing. Bye. Bye.